Mary Oliver wrote, "I go down to the shore in the morning, and depending on the hour, the waves are rolling in or moving out. And I say, oh, I am miserable. What shall I do?" And the sea says in its lovely voice, "Excuse me, I have work to do." So I need to say this right out of the chute. Today is an ending, and it is a beginning. When we graduate from any school, signifying the ending of our time at that institution, we don't have an ending ceremony. We have a commencement, a beginning. When 9 months of pregnancy comes to an end, a birth is the new beginning. At the end of an engagement is a marriage, the beginning of a new journey. At the end of life, we go through a door to our next great adventure. Sometimes our work to do is to find the beginning in the ending. Sometimes our work to do is to lift others up. Sometimes it's to teach. Sometimes it's to learn. Sometimes it's to speak our truth. And sometimes it's to shut our mouths and be silent. I do believe this, that it is always our work to do to be grateful. And within that experience, everything else resides. It's also our work to find light in the dark. These past couple of weeks have really shown many of us what work we have to do here. From the shootings in Charleston, which we now recognize as not a one-time event, but a long time in coming tipping point, to the continuing gentle education we must now do with the landmark Supreme Court ruling that made marriage an equal experience for everyone. I often refer to Facebook as the town square. It really is for me. And there have been some phenomenal and painful and powerful conversations happening on Facebook in these past 2 weeks. And some have been able to remain civil and honest while still being passionate. And others have deteriorated into fear-based ridiculousness that I needed to walk away from. Sometimes our work to do is to stand up and speak strong words. Sometimes our work to do is to walk away with the knowledge that everyone is on their own path. And it's important to know the difference, to know which choice is best for ourselves and which is best for the situation as a whole. George Eliot wisely wrote, "What do we live for if it is not to make life less difficult for each other?" What do we live for if it is not to make life less difficult for each other? The precarious part of that idea, though, is making life less difficult for us might look different than a life less difficult for another. How do we know? This is an old story, but it still holds true. 2 shoe salesmen in the 1800s went to Africa. And at that time, Africa was being colonized by the Europeans. And these 2 salesmen left home to do market research in the jungles of the remote jungles of the continent. And both men were very adventurous, and both men represented 2 different companies. And they each had different perspectives on the shoe business. So shortly after arriving, one of the salesmen sent this telegram to his company: "Returning on next ship, no opportunities here. Natives are barefoot." The other salesman sent this telegram saying, "Urgent, send millions of shoes, all sizes. Natives are barefoot." Sometimes our work is to bring shoes. Sometimes our work is to leave folks just as they are. And our choice is not a reflection on how others should judge us. It's what we know in the moment to be true. The first salesman saw that what he had to offer would not be welcomed or necessary. They don't wear shoes. They don't need shoes. I'm out of here. The other saw great opportunity, which he probably didn't realize could potentially change the culture he was invading. Improving. Sometimes our work to do is to check our opinions at the door. Or better yet, sometimes our work to do is to take our opinions out with the trash. 2 weeks ago, I quoted my friend Annie O'Neill at our last time together, and I'm going to quote her again because she's got so much wisdom going on that I just have to do it. Annie wrote the other day, "It's trash day in my neighborhood. I try and get everything out the night before, but sometimes there I am in my bathrobe bringing out a final bag or two. And as I carry it out, I always think of something that I can add that is not physical, not three-dimensional, but some habit or thought that I don't want. Today, it is thinking that I am right about anything. Why be right all the time? And I'm talking about being right all the time. Why not let some of that go? So when I heaved the kitchen garbage into the black bin, I let go of some of that needing to be right. After all, the song goes, I gotta be me, not I gotta be right." I love this idea. I love this idea of taking something of our inner stuff out with the trash. Being something of a fan of ritual, this kind of stuff really moves me. Bringing the ethereal down to the earthly. Taking it out with the trash. Boom, gone. And I also really appreciated her choice of garbage that day. Especially these days, the need to be right can get confused with the need to make others wrong. Sometimes our work to do is to choose to recognize our own wholeness instead of doing battle or damaging others in our desire to be right. 4 monks decided to meditate silently, no speaking, for 2 weeks. By nightfall of the first day, the candle began to flicker and then it went out. The first monk said, "Oh no, the candle's out." The second monk said, "Aren't we not supposed to talk?" The third monk said, "Why must you break the silence?" And the fourth monk laughed and said, "I'm the only one who didn't speak." So this leads to a big piece of this idea. What is our work to do? It's our work to do. It's not anyone else's. Being so busy deciding what is best or right for others, getting all up in each other's business in a not healing for the betterment of all kind of way, and most of all, comparing why we're here, what we do while we're here, and how we do it is only going to be harmful for us. The reason we struggle with insecurity is because we compare our behind the scenes with everyone else's highlight reel. We're here for us and for us to be healthy and whole so that then we can contribute to the betterment of all. But it's an inside job. Your work, your work, your work, your work, my work. All of our work to do may not be the same. It's not the same. We might work together, and still our individual work to do is not the same. And that's okay. The most important thing is that we do the work, whatever it is, that is ours to do in whatever moment we are in, because we know the work can change. Sometimes the work is just to survive the night, or to make it through your day at work doing what doesn't feed you, or to be patient in the post office line. That's big work to do. Or to listen to someone when your mind is already full and racing. And then sometimes the work is much bigger. To change the world. To open minds and hearts. To stand strong in the face of danger. to climb a flagpole to take down a flag because it's not happening fast enough. What's most important is that we show up for our work and that we start from wherever we are, whenever we are, whatever's going on. F. Scott Fitzgerald said this: "For what it's worth, it's never too late, or in my case, too early, to be whoever you want to be. There's no time limit. Stop whenever you want. You can change or stay the same. There are no rules to this thing. We can make the best or the worst of it. I hope you make the best of it. And I hope you see things that startle you. I hope you feel things you never felt before. I hope you meet people with a different point of view. I hope you live a life you're proud of. If you find that you're not, I hope you have the strength to start all over again." And that's the thing. We can start all over again. Sorry, did I get in the way? Okay. We can start all over again, and we kind of do it already. We just aren't always aware that we're doing it. Just think for a second. Think about the moment that you wake up in the morning. And not the, hit the snooze button for 5 minutes waking up. Think about the moment before that one. Your very first moment of consciousness. In that sweet moment when we sometimes don't know where we are or even what century we're in, if you dream like I dream, we're not fully aware. And in that not fully aware moment, we're starting over. We may not even know what day it is yet. We're freshly hatching out of the egg of sleep. We're just born. We're totally new. And it isn't until we recognize where we are, what day is it, and what lies ahead of us in that day, be it wonderfully exciting or boringly mundane or depressingly ugh, whatever it is, we don't start judging it until that moment that we recognize. But in the moment before the judging, there's infinite possibility. We're starting over every day. And it's in that moment that the gift lives. The gift of gratitude, the gift of potential, the gift of not knowing, the gift of freedom. And I believe, that we can recreate that moment anytime we want to, by taking a deep breath, unplugging just for a moment from the world, by letting go of the chains we're dragging, and by bringing a new mantra into our consciousness. And this new mantra is, what is my work to do now? What is my work to do right now? So these 3 slides requested to be together. The jar is my thankful jar. Do you guys know about this practice? So for those who don't, it's a really cool jar. You take a jar, really cool practice. You take a jar, and on New Year's Day, you start writing down good things that happen, things you're thankful for, anything, and you start putting them in the jar. And then on New Year's Eve, you dump the jar out and you read them all. It's so powerful. I did it for half of 2013. I did it all of last year. And the good news is, this jar, that picture was taken on May 25th. I need a new jar. I need a second jar. Although I do take pleasure in jamming them in there. And I even keep on my phone a little reminder, my good things jar reminder. So if stuff happens during the day, I put it in my phone so I don't forget to write it down later. At least one a day. So when I'm feeling lost or disconnected, or I wonder why the heck I'm here, I look at that jar. And I remember that my work to do is to simply be grateful. To remember that there are people and moments that have lifted me. And to know that in some way, I participated in co-creating the good thing that got written down in that jar. I showed up for it. Sometimes our work to do is just to show up. The Mother Teresa quote Yesterday is gone. Tomorrow has not yet come. We have only today. Let us begin. That quote wanted to be seen because she reminds us that we don't have to worry about what we have or haven't done. Past glories or past failures are just that, past. We have no idea what tomorrow is going to bring. So let's roll up our sleeves and get to work now. Our work to do is to be present in the now moment, this now moment. And now this one. And so on. And of course, this is the hand of the David. The fact that a creative presence such as Michelangelo could say that he is still learning, that gives me a lot of hope. His work, the work he did releasing the David from that broken piece of stone, could he have possibly known how spectacular it was going to be? I don't know. I'm just so grateful that he agreed to do the work that he was here to do, the work that was his to do. And the result of his work, the David, is one of the most powerful inspirations in my life. Sometimes our work to do is to see what isn't there yet in the pile of whatever that's in front of us. Buckminster Fuller wrote, "There is nothing in a caterpillar that tells you it's going to be a butterfly." And yet it is in there. It is. Our work is to believe. I just heard on Radiolab on NPR yesterday, they did a story where they did some kind of weird testing on a caterpillar. I'll have to listen to it again, but they did some weird testing on a caterpillar of its consciousness or its fear. They did a fear test, whatever. Then it went into its cocoon, and then it became a moth. And they did the same test on the moth, and the moth remembered the fear. The consciousness survived the goo. There's nothing in the caterpillar that says it's going to be a butterfly, and yet it's there. It's there. Sometimes we just have to believe that it's there. Kevin Anderson wrote, "It may feel comfortable to live within the confines of our lives as we have currently constructed them, yet this can also cause us to suffocate spiritually, to miss the chance to live the winged life. We too often live with an unenlightened caterpillar consciousness, unable to imagine what there is beyond inching along and munching on the leaves of our routine lives. When a period of transformation is upon us, we'd sometimes rather go back to a familiar life than allow our crawling selves to die so that a winged life we know only dimly, if at all, can be born. Though our minds fear change, our souls know that transformation through darkness is a necessary part of the path of life. That's Freudian. Transformation through darkness is a necessary part of the path of light." What really speaks to me in this quote, especially right now, is to remember that even though the caterpillar is technically no more, it's also not quite gone. And Radiolab proved that yesterday. It changes, it transforms, but that doesn't mean that once we don't see it anymore, it simply never was. It's like this cartoon that I love. It's an old photo. The butterfly's not denying what it once was. It's just simply acknowledging that it isn't what it was anymore. It's an old photo. Our work to do is to navigate the changes of our lives without losing ourselves. It's to forgive what we think is unforgivable. To see and hear each other even when we feel frustrated and tired. To understand beyond the appearance. When you think about it, the work that is ours to do sounds a lot like wedding vows. And I think that's true. It's our commitment to life, to our lives, to everyone we share our lives with, from family to friends to partners to strangers to those we perceive as the other. Although there is so much more work that we are here to do, I want to share one last piece of what I see as our work to do that I feel ties it all together, and that's to trust the unknown. We truly don't know what is to come. Sometimes we don't really even know what's happening while it's happening. Something could appear to be a bad thing, and as a result of it, good things happen. Or the opposite. We trust that when we get out of bed in the morning, the floor is going to support us. We trust that when we open the door to walk outside, that everything will be just as we left it last night. We trust that if we're running late, we can swing through a coffee stand or stop at a gas station and grab a coffee or a Pop-Tart. I don't call this taking anything for granted. Some do. I truly trust in it, and I'm so grateful every time it happens, especially for the Pop-Tart. And yet when moments like these come up for us, these next moments that are coming up for us, the ending of Spirit Stone, my leaving Alaska, stepping out into unknown territory, what's to come next, suddenly it is very clear what is my work to do. And it is to trust, to listen, to be patient, and to know. As usual, when I do those things, when I do those practices, when I practice the presence, I'm given the gift of a perfect epiphany. And God bless her heart, it came from Gilda Radner. Gilda wrote in her final book, "I wanted a perfect ending. Now I've learned the hard way that some poems don't rhyme and some stories don't have a clear beginning, middle, and end. Life is about not knowing, having to change, taking the moment and making the best of it without knowing what's going to happen next." That's where we are. That's where we always are. And I believe that it's our work to allow ourselves to be there. There's only one prayer that's going to work right now. Rolling river God, little stones are smooth. Only once the water passes through. And so I am a stone, rough and grainy still, trying to reconcile this river's chill. And when I close my eyes and feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, and change takes time. And when the sunset comes, my prayer would be just one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am just a little smoother in your hand. Sometimes raging wild, sometimes swollen high. Never have I known this river dry. The deepest part of you is where I want to stay and feel the sharpest edges wash away. And when I close my eyes and feel you rushing by, I know that time brings change, takes time. And when my sunset comes, my prayer would be this one, that you might pick me up and notice that I am just a little smoother in your hand. Rolling river God, little stones are smooth. Only once the water passes through. My blessings to each and every one of you. Amen. Ashe.